Welcome. This is David Boles, Human Meme. Today's topic, Entrenching, the Thucydides Trap. We live in a world of warnings, some dire, some niggling, all of them ferocious in being, in that they take away attention and steal security. When we worry, instead of creating, we diminish the whole future of us. A trap becomes a trench, and a trench becomes a cage of claws. Thucydides was a Greek author who knew history. He lived between the years of 460 BC and he died around 400 BC. His most famous work is a book about the history of the Peloponnesian War and the battles between Sparta and Athens in the 5th century. The Thucydides Trap is a new colloquial human fear that bubbles in the Valley of Terror when a new and upcoming power creates fear in an established majority power. And the threat, or threats, real or perceived, from either side, leads directly to all-out war. Thucydides wrote this:
"What made war inevitable was the growth of Athenian power and the terror this caused in Sparta."
The modern equivalent of the Thucydides Trap argues that since the Peloponnesian War ended 2,500 years ago, we still have threats to the common core by outside agents. Some examples: Palestine and Israel, China and the USA, Ireland and the United Kingdom, and so on ad infinitum. And so these threats, these imagined threats, real, promised, or invented, are all still deadly enough on their own, because they are spoken and they exist. All to create uncertainty and pause on both sides. The majority power wants to keep their stakes, and the upstart minority wants power and wants to rise up for a position beyond where the established majority power stuck them. We can apply the Thucydides Trap to things other than warfare between nations and nation-states. Civil rights, the Civil War, women's suffrage, all are examples of inclusion to exclusion, and the stakes that are wagered and then gained, forcing the majority into equalizing the needs and the wants of the minority. There is power in the few against the many, because when there is nothing to lose but one life, the majority weeps and blinks in the greater ethereal threat of being wiped from the notions of history. And that's how change happens. The small threatens the large, and in the end, through war or attrition or even attribution, everyone equalizes and becomes middling. What often gets lost in the Thucydides Trap is that each side is right. They have their own interests and desires and wants to win. And that very fact in conflict is what helps create the dangerous road from which there is no recovery. How far would the Cuban Missile Crisis have gone if Russia didn't blink? Would JFK have pressed the button for the annihilation of a people, state, and the rest of the world? How far is too far? The straight answer is, you cannot make a threat you don't plan to prove. There's one reason why many police officers are trained in American police academies: to shoot to kill. A police officer is taught to never fire a weapon unless one life is in danger, and another life must be lost to resolve the crisis. In the USA, police officers shoot for the heart, not a leg or an arm or a shoulder, because they don't want to wound a dangerous person threatening lives. They want to end the deadly threat immediately, without question, as fast as possible. That's why we must always be careful when encountering police officers with drawn weapons. There's only one way that may end, and that way is never good if you're the cause of the weapon drawing. Stand down, stand away, live a little longer. So, following through on this, don't make a threat you cannot deliver. We too often and shamelessly make ultimatums that are not believed. And so we think others behave like us. And then the trouble really starts when we encounter someone who means what they say. And because so few people do what they intend, the straightforward dare gets lost in the ether of translation, and traps are set in action. You can only tell someone you're going to do something once, and if you do it, you're real and transparent, and if you do not do it, then you will never be believed again. Beware that the trap you set may not be your own. We see this play out daily in the small lives of many parent-child dyads where behavior is outlined in the child and the parent threatens a correction. But when the correction never happens, the child, aware and wily and the power minority, is given great gumption to keep pushing until their minority power disrupts the house and they become the majority voice. And that is bad for everyone involved. On the larger, more dangerous stage, threatening a war that you never plan to execute creates problems in peacetime. Sure, the tiny power will always threaten the larger power with violence and annihilation. But the majority power must have prescience and wisdom and comity. In order to blink and to not be bothered by a threat, even if the acts are minimally carried out to a fine or lesser effect. There's a reason a majority power can more ably survive all threats and attacks to the core than the minority push ever can. It is the willingness of the people to suffer and to support the greater good. It is all vital. You can win a war with patience, but never appeasement. And just because someone strikes you doesn't mean you must always retaliate with a larger power. Sometimes a silent revenge works best. Sometimes officially ignoring the minor pest works well in the end. Rarely does a majority power declaring war against a minor player ever work out right for the majority. Because there is only prestige, reputation, love, and welfare ready, and all too willfully offered up to be trashed and lost to the ether. And so the final lesson in the Thucydides Trap is to be confident in yourself and in the power of those around you. And all of us share the same station and stake, and no advantage must be unwisely given away in smallness and paranoia. Because, then, only the tiny and the wishful win by eroding the competent confidence of the will of the majority, already blazing the path onward. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.